Hello friends, welcome to part 4 of learning Java. In this video, we will learn more about strings and indexes. So let's get started. So far, we've learned about a few data types. These data types, integer, Boolean, double, char, were all primitive data types. A string is a sequence of ordered characters. Before, we could represent a single character with a char, but now we can represent a word or a person's name with the string data type. To create a string, we surround the series of characters with quotation marks. This represents a string value. To create a string variable, we just say the data type string, give it the variable a label, and then using the assignment operator to assign the variable a string value. We should also note that the order of characters does matter. So let's say that we have a string with desserts, and then we have another different string with stressed. Although the two strings have the same letters, they would not be considered as having equal value because the letters are in different orders. So what makes a string a reference type? Unlike primitive data types and other data types that we have looked at, a string is built out of characters. It is not a basic data type. It is created out of organizing char data pieces in significant ways. Now that we know about string, let's create a string in Java. Using our program from the previous video, let's go ahead and create a string in Java. So first, we will have to assign the value as a data type, saying string. Then we will have to give it a variable name or a label. Right now, let's give it student name. Then we give it a value, saying Suhani Shauqeen. Remember to put this in double quotation marks. At the very end, we put a semicolon. Let's go ahead and give the statement for printing it. We give it system.out.println, and then we give the variable name that we gave, student name. If we are going to print this, we will see, if we run this, we will see that we get the value Suhani Shauqeen when we print student name. You can also print this separately, saying that Suhani is the first name and then Shauqeen as the last name. Let's go ahead and do this. So now we will change the variable name from student name to student first name, and then we will go down and give another string value, and then give it another variable or a label saying student last name. Assign the equal to operator, and then give it a string in double quotation marks saying Shauqeen. Now, as you can see here, student name is now red. Why is that? Because we do not have any variable named student name. So we will change this to student first name, and then give another print statement stating system.out.println, give the variable name student last name, and then let's run this program once more. As you can see, Suhani and Shauqeen are now print separately. This is how you use the string assignment operator, string data type. Now that we have the student first name and the last name separated, we can calculate the student's first initial from the first name and the last initial from the last name. All we need to do is somehow grab the first letter of the first name and the first letter of the last name to create each initial. Earlier, we talked about how ordering of the letters within a string matters. And this is one place where that comes into play. For example, if we have the word Steve, the ordering of letters in the string matters. Consider a string Steve. S is at index 0, T is at index 1, E is at index 2, V is at index 3, and E is at index 4. This means to calculate the first initial of the first name, we'll want to access the character at index 0 or the 0th slot in the string. To do this, we can use a special string operator to access the letters inside the first name. To grab the first letter of the first name, we can use the operation called charAt. CharAt allows us to access a character at a specific location within a string. It takes one input, and that is the index or the location of the character we want to access. Using the program that we used in earlier slides and previous videos, we will see how to print the student first initial using the charAt operator. So over here, we will first have to write the label or the variable name, which is student first name. Then using the dot charAt operator, we can give it an index. The first initial is at index 0, so we will write in 0. Now for student last initial, we will do the same. We will write in student last name, where we want the first last initial from, and then using dot charAt and giving it an index of 0, because that is the index of the last initial. Now if we go ahead and run this, we will see that the last and the second last thing to be printed is the last initial and first initial. So we can see S and M are printed by using the charAt operator. So far, we've printed out the string hello world individually and a few variables individually. But now we are going to learn how to print them together in the same line. To do this, we need to first combine string values with variables that hold the string in the print statement. Combining of strings in Java is also called concatenation. For concatenation, we use the plus operator. Here, we are trying to print the student's first name, then last name, and then saying that he has a marks of 90.5. For that, we will be printing out by using system.out.println, and then in parentheses, we will be writing, first we will write the student first name. Then using the plus operator, we will add student last name. But if we go ahead and print this, there will be no space between the student's first name and the student's last name. So we will have to add a space bar in between. By using the double quotes, we can add a space bar. And then again we have to use the plus operator. At the very end of it, we wanted to add that this student has a marks of 90.5. So we will use the plus operator once more, and then in double quotes we will write has marks, and then using the plus operator again, we will specify the label student marks. At the very end, we add a semicolon. If we are to print this, let's see what the output will be. As you can see, all these variables are now printed out in one single line. Steve Marsh has marks 90.5. This is how we can concatenate our strings. So far, we've learned how to output information to the user using system.out.println. We've created several variables and printed out their values to the user, as well as concatenated their values to string literals. In this lesson, we'll look at how we can create a program that allows the user to input information affecting the program's output. Thinking back to our student program, we might need to update the student's marks. With some updates to the code, we can let the user dynamically change the values of the student's marks.
We have over here a Java program that we have been working on for the past few slides and few videos. In this, we will have to take input from the user of the student marks to update our student marks into whatever the user wants it to be. To do this, we can create a scanner with system.in and save the scanner in the variable labeled input. This is the opposite of the system.out that we have been using to print to the console. This means that we will have to write input is equal to new scanner, and in brackets we write system.in. You see that this creates errors. Why is that so? Because we need to identify a data type for our variable. The data type here will be scanner. There can be many data types in Java. This is just one of the many. Now, before we use the data type scanner, we need to import scanner. So for that, we will have to write import java.util.scanner. Now, what we wanted to change in this program was student marks. So we will identify the variable that we wanted to change, that is student marks, and write down the operation input dot next double. This will let the user input the value of student marks into the program. You see how we did not specify double before inputting student marks. That is because we already did it up here before, so we do not need to do it again. Now we'll want to save the value that we did over here. Since we've already introduced and defined the student GPA variable before, we do not need to add the data type because Java already recognizes this variable as a double from its initial definition, and it can only store double values now. Now what we need to do is we need to print out the statement with the new marks. So for that, we will write up our print statement over here. As you can see, I have written down a print statement to print the new marks. So let's go ahead and try and run this program once. Over here, it's showing us an error, and that is because I did not add a semicolon after scanner at the very top after import. So now let's go ahead and try and run this program again. And it shows us Steve Marsh has marks 90.5. What do you want it to update to? Now I want to update it to suppose 91 or 95, let's say 96. So then I press enter and it will show me Steve Marsh now has marks 96. Now let's try and run this again. Suppose we want to change these marks to suppose 85. And then if we run this, if we press enter, then we will see that Steve Marsh now has marks 85. That is how we can take input from the user and get output on the Java program.
Now you might be thinking, wouldn't it be awesome if my program could automatically calculate the marks given a number in each subject? As we go deeper into the fundamentals of Java, we'll be able to create more complicated programs like this. You may also be thinking, does this scale? No. Right now it only works for one student. For the way we have the program structured, we would have to execute this program and edit some source code for every student in the class. Also, nothing about this update is saved eternally. The update works for the program's single execution, but it does not save indefinitely. There are ways to make this program more scalable. But again, this video is meant to be an instruction for how we can store simple data pieces in Java programming language and reference them later in the program. We will be building more complicated programs in later videos. In this video, we learned about strings and the strings data type. We also learned about concatenation of strings and indexing of strings by using the charAt operation. We also learned about the output and input in Java programs. In the next video, we'll be going more in depth into the Java program, so stay tuned, do like and subscribe. Thank you for watching.